Well, good morning or good afternoon to everyone, depending on what part of the country you're calling in from. My name is Ginger Bell, and I would like to welcome you to the Finance of America Wholesale Mortgage Renovation Lending Open Mic session. I'm very excited about this session today. We're going to be talking about renovation lending, one of my favorite topics, and one of the greatest loan programs that I really think is not utilized a lot. So we're here today to answer your questions, and we have some to key them up. But before we get started, I want to make sure that you know how to ask questions. This has been a very popular webinar. We probably have about 100 people registered for this webinar, which is exciting because that means you all want to learn about the renovation loan. And so we want to make sure that we can answer your questions, and you can ask your questions. But since we do have so many people on the webinar, we do have you all muted. So if you raise your hand, I'm not going to unmute you. You can raise your hand and wave at me. I'm fine with that. But how you're going to ask questions is by typing them into the question panel. So you can listen. You can listen either through your computer, or you can call in and listen. And then I'm also sending you a copy of the slide deck, which I'm going to put up there right now. So you can click on that link, get a copy of the slide deck. I'm also going to send a follow-up of the slide deck in a follow-up email tomorrow, so you'll get that as well. But let's make sure you can ask questions. And there's two different ways you can ask questions. One is in Q&A, which is obviously where you put questions at, and the other is in the chat box. So both of those areas you can type into, and let's go ahead and test it right now to make sure that you all know how to ask questions and that I'm not having a conversation just with myself here. That's one of the challenges of webinars, is we may not always know if somebody can actually hear us. So hopefully you can hear us, but if you can type into either the chat box or the Q&A box, I don't care which one, just let me know what part of the country you're calling in from. And let me know how your weather is. This time of the year, it's always so pleasant across the country. And I'm in the Pacific Northwest. Not so pleasant today. It's actually a little overcast and maybe looks like rain. But I can tell you it has been perfect here. Julie, Sacramento, always beautiful in Sacramento. Love it. Oh, Stan, hot already in Phoenix. I'm not surprised about that. And so across the country, I know it's great. So good. Dennis, thank you so much. I can see the questions, and you all are doing a great job. Okay, so here's the deal. Any question you want to ask, type it in there. We are going to key up some questions in case you can't think of a question, of some of the most common questions. And these questions are going to be answered by our most wonderful expert, Lindy Pond. Lindy is the National Renovation Manager for Finance of America, and she is a nationally recognized leader in the area of renovation lending with over 16 years of experience in the mortgage banking industry. She has held the position of National Renovation Program Manager for 3 of the top lenders in the country, taking all of them to new heights of success. She's now at Finance of America Mortgage, and she brings her proven skills to our family, which we're excited to have her on board. I had an opportunity to meet Lindy in January, where she presented for a national conference, and was just absolutely wowed and amazed. The energy level she has, her expertise is phenomenal. So you guys are going to have a blast working with her and being able to find out her expertise. So Lindy, thank you so much for joining us and
Sure.
putting this
I was
together.
thinking I probably should send you. I should probably send you $10. I mean, that was like a lot of nice stuff you said. So thanks. Not like just $1. I'll send you 10. I mean, that's fine.
10. Wow. Hey, that's pretty good.
I know.
So Lindy, we did a webinar last month together, and we're just talking about all the questions that were coming up throughout the webinar, that people really do have a lot of questions about the renovation loan. And so we came up with let's do an open mic. Let's just open it to where people can ask questions, whatever the question is, and go from there. So we will go through and key up questions. I'm seeing a couple of questions coming in right now. One of them is the presentation material. Yes, so the presentation material, and I'm sending it again right now. In your chat box, you will see a link. Click on that link on your computer, and you can download a copy of the PowerPoint presentation. But you don't need to worry about it. I'm going to go through it. I'm going to key up the questions, and we're going to be able to, you should see it on my screen. So as long as you all can see my screen, then we should be good to go. So Lindy, are you ready?
I am. I think you just sent it to me privately. Does it show to everyone or just me if it says privately?
Maybe that's what I need to do. Let's see.
But whomever was asking, if you scroll the very top of the chat, Ginger put it up there before we started, a couple minutes before we started.
Show,
that's all.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not letting me allow. Let me see. Hold on just a second. We're going to take just a second here, and I am going to get that.
And while Ginger does that, just so you guys, there you go. Just so you guys know too, these questions we're going to answer, I actually just took them from, we have a renovation scenario mailbox, and there's about 5 of us who monitor that, including myself, a processor, an underwriter, ops manager. So what I did was I just went into our mailbox and I took like our last X amount of questions that were asked in the mailbox. So these are actual real questions from you guys.
Perfect. Which is what we want. We want to be able to answer the questions that you have. So we're going to start with the first question. Feel free to type in your own questions, especially if you don't see that we are addressing that question. So first question is it always a 10% contingency reserve? And then is that part of the repair budget?
So the answer to that question is, it is not part of the contractor's estimate, but it is part of the repair budget. And I just have to move my little screen down. So FHA does require a contingency reserve on every 203K loan. It is a minimum of 10% and a maximum of 20. We never use 20. So if the utilities are on and working, it's only 10%. If the utilities are not on and or not working, then it's 15%. And again, it's calculated as a percentage of the repair cost. So if the repairs were $30,000, 10% would be $3,000, 15% would be $4,500 if I can do my math correctly. So it's not part of the contractor's bid, but it is part of our total cost of repairs. When you do the 203K worksheet, it is a line item on the worksheet that will help you add that into the total cost.
Perfect. Okay, so next question then is, and we don't have to worry about it right now, but I know for our friends that are from the Midwest, obviously to the East, and sometimes in Oregon we have this, but what do we do when a house is winterized?
So again, this question also pertains sometimes any year, at any time of the year. Winterizing is something that just sometimes the foreclosure property managers do. So we more likely have it in the middle of the winter when it's snowy and pipes freeze and things like that. But sometimes we run into this various times if it's a foreclosure property as well. So if there are known issues, we clearly do not expect them to de-winterize. We just need to make sure that whatever that work is mentioned in the scope of work or mentioned in the contractor's bid, and then we put in a 15% contingency. If there are known issues, say that fast 10 times. If there are known issues, the realtor would need to request the seller to de-winterize the property so the appraiser could go out there. Remember, FHA requires the appraiser to comment on the functionality of the utilities. So if the property is winterized, the appraiser cannot do that. So anytime you've got a property, whether it's a renovation loan or a non-renovation FHA loan, if it is winterized in the middle of the winter, the appraiser is going to need it to be de-winterized so he can do his inspection.
Okay, and I'm going to ask a side question on this too, because I know it's come up before, is say it is winterized or that contingency is there because the utilities are not on. Can that contingency later be used because it's kind of a reserve for any additional repairs that they want to do?
Absolutely, yes. So what happens with the contingency reserve? So it's part of their loan. So if their loan amount is they're buying a house for $200,000, they're putting $30,000 worth of work per contractor's bid, their loan's not going to be a simple $230,000. Their loan's going to be like a $233,000, $234,000 because it includes that add on that contingency reserve. So the contingency reserve is used for anything unforeseen, anything we didn't think of, anything that came up that was unexpected. So if when they turn the utilities on, nothing is wrong and we didn't need to use any of that contingency reserve, which is why we'd have a bigger contingency reserve, right? So if we didn't need to use any of that contingency reserve because the utilities were perfectly fine, then they can use that contingency reserve for other items. We want them to finish everything that would be required to be done first before they go remodel a bathroom that they didn't intend to do. But as long as everything is done that needs to be done per the contractor's bid, and they've got an extra $3,000 left over, they can go use that $3,000 to buy new appliances, upgrade the flooring, whatever they might want to do.
Perfect. Very good. And we're going to move on to the next question. I'm actually going to tie in a question that I'm seeing from Lynn in with this question because it kind of relates to it. But the question we have is, do we need to have the permit to add an addition approved before closing?
So as far as permits go, we do not need to get permits prior to closing, but because think about this, you know, the Smiths are buying a new house. The Smiths don't own the house yet. The Smiths can't go to the county and get a building permit on a house they don't own yet. I will say a little caveat to that is, let's say the Smiths want to convert a property to something different, meaning let's say they want to take a 1 unit and make it into a 2 unit. We have someone right now who is taking a single family and making it into mixed use, where their office is going to be downstairs like in a storefront and they're going to live upstairs. So when you're changing a property, we will want some kind of documentation from the county to say this can be done. But legally, until the Smiths own the property, they can't go apply for the permit.
Okay, and so similar kind of a transaction, and this is a question from Lynn, can a 203K loan be used to complete a new build? So they're buying a new home and want to do some completions on it.
So Lynn, the question would be, are they buying a home and want to do some completions on it? Like Ginger was mentioning, like they want to build an addition. If you want to you're buying an existing home and you want to build an addition onto the house, no problem. That happens all the time. But if you're asking, can we use a 203K renovation loan to build a brand new house? The answer would be no. So the line in the sand between new construction and renovation is a certificate of occupancy. So if a house has never been completed, whether it's raw land and we're going to build a whole entire house, or, you know, years ago when we had a ton of foreclosures when builders were going out, they'd build it halfway through a house, they'd run out of money and they couldn't finish the house. That house still never had a certificate of occupancy because it was never completed. That's still considered new construction, even if the house was started. So in order for a loan to be considered, a property to be considered existing so that we can do a renovation loan on it, FHA says it has to have had its certificate of occupancy, CO, for a minimum of 12 months. So Lynn, whichever way you were going with that, no, they currently own the home but need to complete it. Again, the question is the house already completed and done and they started a renovation and they just ran out of money? We can absolutely do that. We do it all the time, as long as there's already an existing house. Hopefully that answers.
And I heard you say one thing. So you're talking about a certificate of occupancy for 12 months. So does that mean they need to be in the property for 12 months? So they can't just buy it and say, okay, we bought this, but, you know, we need to, you know, put in a fence or, you know, we want to add some other things. So they need to live there for 12 months.
No, they don't need to live there. So think it's the life of the property itself, not how long our borrowers have lived there.
Okay.
So the life of the property, if the property is brand new, just built, or it's halfway through construction and they ran out of money halfway through and couldn't ever finish it, that's all still considered new construction because they never finished the house. The house hasn't existed for 12 months. If the house has existed for 12 months and they just want to build a garage, like Lynn is asking, they want to build a garage, they want to build an addition, they want to add on, they want to remodel. No problem at all because the house has been existing already for 12 months. So Lynn's question, I think specifically, she says they currently live in the apartment over the garage. So Lynn, the question would be, they live in the apartment over the garage. Are they now going to build a house that is attached to the garage? Perfectly fine, no problem. FHA is a little picky about living square footage, living space. So if you're adding Lynn, they're doing it a little reverse, right? Normally you have a house and you add a garage later. So it sounds like they built a garage and the apartment over the garage, that's their living space. And now they want to build the house. Perfectly fine as long as it's attached The only kind of square footage we can add must be attached to the existing property. So Lynn, in your question, yes, they can do that. They can build a house now. They built a garage. They have an apartment over it. They're living in the apartment. Can they build a house now onto the garage? Absolutely, yes, they can. It will just need to be attached in your situation. We can do detached garages, but it's a different situation than what Lynn is describing.
Yeah. And it looks like, Lynn, from what you're talking about right now, I think probably I would take this offline, because it sounds like you have a great possibility for a rental loan. And so I think, and this is one of those things that is so great, first of all, for you all to be able to recognize the opportunity of the rental loan. And second of all, to be able to have the expertise of someone like Lindy and Lindy's team to be able to run the scenarios to help you put this together to where you can do this, because a lot of originators just walk away from this. And so many people, and Lindy, I know you hear this too, there are people are like, oh, renovation loans, there's so much work. And it's like, oh my gosh, are you kidding? It's not that much more work. And so.
And it gets you a deal that you otherwise might not have had. So,
yeah,
you know.
and maybe a relationship with a realtor too. So those are things to look at. So before
to Ginger's point, Lynn, just shoot us Ginger, I was just going to say Lynn, just shoot us an email with a scenario, because if you've got a specific scenario like that, I want you to give me the scenario in writing. I want to give you back an answer in writing. We can always run it by an underwriter if we need to. And that way, when you turn the file in, we already have the conversation dialogue documented, and it makes it just go faster when it gets into underwriting.
Yeah. Perfect. Isn't that wonderful?
Did you see Bill's question?
I did. So let's go ahead and do that next. So Bill has a question. And so you're saying, so there's a definition of builder, and there's the definition of contractor. And so
yes,
Bill, I would like you to clarify that, because when I see the word builder, I think of new construction. And Lindy, I don't know if that's kind of general.
No, I do too.
Okay. When you think of a contractor, because you're talking about abandoned a previously existing home renovation, not a new construction. So if somebody has started construction but didn't, finish it, can they use the 203K to go in and finish it? Is what I see Bill's question.
So again, if it is to finish off new construction that was never finished, then that's still considered new construction. If it is to finish off a remodeling project that the house already exists, we started a renovation project and we just didn't finish the renovation project, we absolutely can do that. That's actually more common than you would think. So Bill, when you ask your question, what if the builder abandoned a previously existing home renovation, not new construction? If you were to, Bill, I think if you were to say, what if the contractor abandoned a previously, then yes, all day long. I think you're using the word builder and it might be throwing us off. So the question is the house existing, and has it been existing for a while? And it just happens to be a renovation project that they ran out of money on? No problem. We can do that.
Perfect. And so John is asking a question. What's the difference between a streamlined 203K and a regular 203K?
John, that's an easy one. So a streamline, we don't call it that anymore technically. FHA changed the name of it to now it's a limited. So limited meaning it's a limited construction project. So limited is $30,000 and under in renovation costs and nothing structural. So technically HUD says $35,000, but I want you to think 30, because by the time we get $30,000 on that contractor's repair bid, we add in the contingency reserve, we add in the inspection fee, and we add in the supplemental, you're up to 34, 35, and HUD will not let us go over a total of 35. So think 30,000 in your head, nothing structural. That's a limited. A standard is anything that could be structural and anything that's over 30,000. So if it's a foundation problem, that's a structural issue, and the cost is 10,000, that's a standard. If it's a home addition, building a garage, remodeling a kitchen, and it's 35 and up, 30 and up, then that's a standard. So more complicated, structural, over 30,000, standard. Under 30,000, nothing structural, limited. That's the difference.
Right. What's the percentage, and you may not know, that do streamline versus the standard?
The limited versus the standard really is we really do a lot more limited. We are doing more standards than I've ever seen in the past because we're doing a fair amount of additions. So as many of us on the call know, we've been in the business for a while. The average time a first-time home buyer used to live in their house was 3 to 5 years. So we're going to call that 4, right? 3 to 5 years is 4, if you ask me.
Yep.
Now the average time a first-time home buyer has been staying in their home is 8.7 years. So people are staying put a lot longer for all the various reasons we know. Low inventory, so they can't find a house. They could sell their house but not make enough money on it because they're now just right side up, or they could barely afford to sell their house. They don't want that much more of a mortgage payment. There are all sorts of reasons that people are staying put longer. And what that's bringing to us is a lot of renovation refinances, way more than we've ever had in the past. And with those, we're finding that people are building a lot of house additions. So the average cost of our renovation amount went from $30,000 to almost $50,000, believe it or not, in just a couple years, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So we're doing a lot more standards because when you get over 30,000, which is where we are, you have to do it as a standard. So I would say, it's either a 50-50 or a 40-60 split, that kind of thing.
Okay, perfect. And on that lines, Bill has a question. Is a room addition considered structural?
Yeah, if we're building walls, which in theory, if you're building an addition, you're doing structural, yeah.
But if you're building within, so say you have a basement that you're finishing a basement, and so maybe you're putting, you're going to do a bedroom and a bathroom and
right.
things like that. That's not considered structural, right?
Correct. You're correct. And so you should be perfectly fine. I mean, there's nothing with load-bearing walls because the basement. So you're thinking your exterior walls are all existing. They're all there.
Right.
So if you could do that for 30,000 and under, then that could be a limited because you're just building some non-load-bearing walls.
Perfect. Okay, good. Now I'm seeing some of you raise your hand. And if you're raising your hand just to kind of check everything out, that's fine. If you're raising your hand for me to call on you, I'm not going to do that because we're going to move on. So you can type in your question. Otherwise, raise your hand.
We can't, not that we wouldn't want to call on you, but we can't because Lori, everyone's muted. So type it in.
It's humorous if nothing else. But yeah, if you do have a question, just type it in the chat or the question box, which is fine. Okay, we're going to move on to our next question. I have a borrower that is looking to purchase 4 acres with a home that will need to be torn down and rebuilt. Is this possible on the 203K?
So if there is, when they tear the house down, do they leave 100% of the original existing foundation? Then you're fine because that's still considered renovation. Remember, guys, if we tear it down to the raw land and there's nothing there, there's no old house. You just made yourself have to go get them a new construction a perm loan. So if there is the 100% of the original existing foundation, then we can build a house on top of that, and that's considered new construction. I mean, we can build a house on top of that, and that's renovation.
Renovation, not considered.
Yes, renovation.
Right.
Sorry, I messed up my own words. So if you tear it down to raw land, there's nothing there, I can't help you because that's new construction.
Right. So the question,
so just make sure they leave the foundation.
So then you can, Bill has lots of great questions today. Love it. Can you expand on the old foundation? So let's say that the old foundation is 1,000 square feet, not big, and then they want to make it to where it's 3 times that size.
10,000. Yeah, absolutely. So those little they're like little cinder. Well, here I live in Virginia. They're like a river house. They call them river. We're going down the river this weekend. Oh, wow. So the river houses are like a little 800 square foot Monopoly rectangular box, right? People are tearing those down and building 3,000, 4,000 square foot homes. As long as they leave 100% of the original existing foundation, that is specifically what the FHA guideline says, 100% of the original existing foundation, they can build a whole new house. They can double the size, triple the size. I don't care what they do. They just have to have proof that there was a house there so it can be renovation.
Perfect. And so I've got a couple of notes that I want to go through on our questions. One thing is we want to make sure if you're emailing in questions, go through your account executive. you have a fabulous Finance of America account executive, and they can help to structure a lot of those. They can work with the Reno desk to be able to get questions answered as well. And so make sure you're working with your FAM account executive. So next question, Lindy, is would it be permissible for the borrower who is a licensed contractor to complete the work? This is from Kevin.
And this is one of our questions in here. So we do not allow self-help. I know it's one of our questions, Ginger. I'm not sure which one it is.
So we can wait
We do
on
not
that
allow.
if you want.
Okay. Well, it might be next. Look and see.
Do you want me to see? No,
Yeah.
it's not. That's
Okay.
So you can answer.
Well, how about I answer it?
Again.
It's on the tip of my tongue. Yeah, and then we'll skip over it when we get there.
Okay.
So we do not allow self-help. Most larger major lenders who do renovation lending do not allow for self-help. So even if the borrower is a licensed contractor, we will not allow them to act as their own general contractor, or in other words, perform self-help on the property. The reason is because, and we all used to allow this a long time ago, but HUD came out and clarified one of their rules, and they got really picky about this, that said they will not allow the borrower to benefit financially in any way from doing the work themselves. Well, if you're acting as your own contractor, the whole point is to benefit, right? The whole point is to get the job done for less. And HUD's very clear, we're not allowed to put cash in the borrower's pocket. So it was very difficult to determine, how do you prove that? And how do you know it doesn't happen? And you know it does happen. So across the board, all major lenders just pretty much just don't allow self-help. So you also want to remember too, you have to be careful at this piece of the puzzle here is an arm's length transaction. So it can also not be dad of the borrower. So borrower is Johnny. It can't be Johnny's dad acting as a contractor either. Now, if Johnny happens to work for a construction company, and that construction company is a big, legit construction company, and Johnny wants to hire his employer to act as a contractor on the project, no problem, we do that, no big deal. We're just going to get a letter from the company stating they won't hire Johnny to because again, remember, he can't benefit from the project. So they're not going to hire Johnny or use Johnny to do the work. They're going to do the work without Johnny. That's not a problem.
Perfect.
Does all that make sense?
Yep. So we'll move on to the next question. And we have a couple of questions kind of tying with this. So our question is my pre-qual or application different on a 203K loan? And I'll let you answer that, and then I'm going to throw in a couple of others that kind of tie with this.
Okay, awesome. I love this question. So answer is the only difference would be is your loan amount is going to be for more. So normally, let's back to our example, we're going to buy a house for 200 and we're going to put 30 into it. Normally, you'd just pre-qual someone for the sales price of 200, right? In our world, the renovation world, we have to pre-qualify them for the 230 because that's the loan amount. So in reality, we're qualifying them for a loan amount, but loan amount and sales price are typically the same. In the renovation world, because we're increasing the loan amount above and beyond that sales price to accommodate the renovations, you've got to pre-qualify them for that amount. So if you let's do it backwards. You pre-qualify someone for, $250,000 and they go out and they find a house for $250,000, it needs $30,000 worth of work, you're stuck because they don't qualify. They then need 280. They don't qualify because you told them 250. So when you talk to your realtor and they're looking for a house that in the 250 range and in your price range, in your market, there's just none of those left, like in most markets, right? Because of lack of inventory right now. What I want you to start to tell your agent about is, hey, did you know there's an awesome product? It's a renovation loan. And we can go buy a house that maybe is still on the market because something's wrong with it. So we won't be competing against every, Tom, Dick, and Harry in the neighborhood competing for the same house. Let's go look at some houses that are still on the market for whatever various reason, condition, let's call it. But I want you to know that they only qualify for 250. So let's start looking at houses at 200, 210, 215, 220, whatever, right? So that we have enough room to put the renovation amount in so they still aren't exceeding what they qualify for if it's 250. Does that make sense, Ginger?
Yep, absolutely. So
forwards and backwards.
Forwards, exactly. So it just all needs to go through there. The nice thing is that with the worksheet, it actually goes through that whole process for you. So it's very easy to just fill the numbers in and have it calculated and kind of play around with it a little bit.
Yep.
So this is an FHA loan, because we do have a question if it is an FHA loan. So FHA 203K, both the limited and the standard,
Mm-hmm.
is an FHA loan product, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then we have a question also, is the rate the same as the FHA loan?
Ah, good question. So the rate tends to be anywhere from 0.5% to 1% higher than your 203B pricing. So if you don't know, all 203K means it's a section of the housing code. That's all it is. 203B is a regular FHA, 203C is a condo, 203H is a disaster. All the letter is just differentiates the different FHA products. So a 203B is a regular old FHA loan, right? So a 203K is anywhere from 0.5% to 1% higher than your 203B pricing. When you look at your pricing, everyone here on the call, when you go into your pricing engine, your 203K pricing, it should be right next to or a few boxes right after your FHA 203B pricing.
Perfect. And is there a high balance 203K program?
Yes, absolutely. It's an FHA loan. So everything you guys know about FHA loans still applies. So if you're in a marketplace that allows for high balance, absolutely, you can use the 203K up to high balance, which in some marketplaces, Ginger, is really high.
That's great. Well, and often in California, and I know that's an area for great opportunity for this. And we're going to talk about some marketing opportunities. Lindy and I did last month, we did a webinar on using the rental loan to build your business. And so I'm going to send a copy of that recording to you all in case you didn't get a chance
Good
to attend
idea.
it, as well as some of the resources. So we're going to have some things available because I want you to put on your marketing hats, you guys. First of all, you're smart enough to attend this webinar. And so hats off to you for that. And so it's like, let's figure out how to build some business with this because it is a great opportunity for that and people are looking for it. So we're going to talk about that when we get to the end. Before we do, we have one question. We're going to back up a little bit to the foundation question. So there's been a question as far as 25% of the foundation, original foundation being required or 100% of the original foundation?
100%, yeah, 100%, no question.
Okay.
FHA is very clear, 100% of the original existing foundation. Now, if you're thinking 25% and you've been in the business for 20 years like I have, you used to do that, but get that out of your head. FHA is very clear. It's 100% of the original existing foundation.
Perfect. Okay, so keep typing the questions in there. Love it. Our next question we have up on the screen is, and we just already addressed this, so we'll, kind of do a quick recap. I know a borrower cannot do their own work, but can they have their family member do it if a licensed contractor, and that is what he's doing for a living. And you already answered this because of the arm's length issue, right?
You got it.
Okay.
Yep.
So let's move on to the next one. Can a buyer get a second FHA loan, being 203K, where the borrower is relocating more than 100 miles away into a new primary? So this is not just a 203K question, but really an FHA question as well.
Yep. And so what you want to ask yourself often when you're asking yourself a basic FHA question that doesn't have to do with repairs or renovations, you want to ask, what does FHA allow? So we follow all the same FHA rules. So yes, it's no difference for 203K than for any other FHA product. And I probably give that answer, I don't know, once or twice a day. You guys are welcome to ask me any question anytime you ever want. But often you can answer your own question because we'll get questions like, on 203K, can we do a non-occupying co-borrower? Can we do a mixed-use property? Can we do a multi-unit? Can we use gift money for reserves? All those are regular old FHA questions. So the answer to those is, what does FHA say? So same one here. We're going to have to follow that 100-mile rule, the exception to the 2 FHA, blah, blah, blah rule. So whatever FHA allows, we follow the same rules in the 203K world.
Perfect. Okay, and so our next question is, and we answered this already because somebody asked it, can I do a high balance 203K loan?
how convenient. We already answered it.
I know. I love that. So the answer is yes. And then again, it's one of those, if you are in an area that you do a lot of FHA high balance loans, you need to add the 203K to your plan, to what you're doing for your marketing. And think about the things that you can do, going out and talking to contractors, talking to remodelers, going in. I mean, I would go into every kitchen and bath remodeler that's in your area and say, hey, would you like some business? Let's work on this together. And, you know, a lot of them have really nice, like, you know, showrooms where you could go in and do a presentation where, you know, you could say, hey,
at least leave some of your marketing materials.
Yeah, leave some of your marketing materials. Or I mean, I would go in and do a presentation, say, hey, why don't you invite, you know, your database of people who have never done business with you that maybe you'd like to do business with, pull somebody else in that may be a remodeler or maybe a decorator, and then a real estate. I mean, it's like, think outside the box, guys.
It's
and
easy.
That's really what our market requires now, is for us to really think of the ways that we can go, and I call it edu marketing. We'll go and educate and build your market through education. So those are great things to be able to do. Okay.
And
next.
so on that,
go ahead.
But on Ginger, on that example, what I would say too is that kitchen and bath shop, storeroom, showroom, whatever you might want to call it, that kitchen and bath shop, they have a list of preferred contractors. So leverage their list of preferred contractors to partner with that preferred contractor. It's a wine and cheese, it's a luncheon, it's a breakfast, whatever it is. You know, bring one of your realtors if that's what you want to do, like Ginger said. And what you're also doing is you're also trying to get that contractor business. So a lot of times, with these reno refis, we're finding that people thought they had enough money to build the addition themselves, but when they went and got the contractor's bid, it cost a lot more money than they thought it was going to. So they don't have the cash. They had 10 grand in cash, but they don't have 30 grand in cash, which is what it really costs. So now the contractor loses the job. If you could bring to the contractor or bring back to the contractor this customer, because we now found them where they could get their 30,000, that contractor is going to love you. The kitchen and bath place is going to love you, and then you get a loan. So that's a win-win all around. The other thing I want to suggest from a marketing standpoint is when you guys are pre-qualifying. So just think about this in very simple, basic terms. When you guys are pre-qualifying a borrower, next time you pre-qualify an FHA borrower, mention to them a renovation loan. When you call the realtor to say, hey, I just pre-qualified the Joneses and they are good up to $250,000. And I also mentioned to them a renovation loan, just so you know. You then explain it to the realtor what the renovation loan is. So could you also maybe include some houses that maybe say need TLC, cash only, handyman special, or has been on the market for 4 months because you look at the picture and it's a sketchy, scary looking house, right? Look at those houses in the 200 to 220 price range. So they have room to, you know, finance in another 30, 40,000 to get up to their 250. But that might open up the number of houses the realtor is able to show. And then your borrower is not going to have a competitive situation on their hands as if they're looking at the same 250 house that everyone's looking at. So when you're pre-qualifying someone, keep it simple and mention renovation at the pre-qual, plant that seed, and I promise you that'll start getting you some deals.
Well, and think about too, I love that, especially going in with the contractors and saying, hey, what deals have you lost lately? Because I can show you a way to get them back and we can market on this together.
That's right.
The other thing for your real estate agents, ask them if they have an ugly home. It's like, you got an ugly home that won't move, because that's oftentimes why a home won't move, is because it needs work. And so
smells bad.
When they smell bad, I started doing
sometimes you can smell them through the picture. I mean, sometimes you're like, wow, that home's got to be nasty, right? And you can just smell it through the picture.
Yeah. But when I started doing 203Ks 10 years ago, had a friend who was a real estate agent, ugly home, you know, and that was when things were not moving real fast on the market, been on the market for 6 months. And it was a horrible kitchen. It was like this horrible, bright yellow, lime gray. I mean, it was just, everybody walked in and just walked right out. And so I told her, I said, you know what? Make up a flyer and go get some little booklets, remodeling booklets, and get some samples and put them on the counter and just make up a flyer. It says you choose, and offer them the 203K loan. She goes, okay, I'll try it. Because she was going to have them redo the kitchen. I'm like, don't do that, because then they do it and maybe it's not what somebody wants.
Right.
So
Well,
she
and
did
most
that.
sellers these days don't want to spend money on a house they're selling anyhow. So,
Yeah.
yeah, why have the seller make those repairs?
Exactly. So she did that, had an open house, got 3 offers, and sold it that weekend because people now
Awesome.
stayed in the kitchen instead of
Mm-hmm.
walking out going, "Oh my God, can you believe how ugly that
That
is?"
smells bad.
They're like,
Right.
"Oh, what
Well,
would
they
we
start
do? Oh,
dreaming.
let's do
Yeah, they
this
start
and let's
dreaming.
do that."
Oh, if I could. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Right. So with that, Melinda's asking, do we have marketing materials? Yes, we do, and we're going to tell you how to access those.
Of course we
So
do.
we do have some great flyers and marketing material, and let us know what you need. If you want to do presentations and we can help you out and make a PowerPoint presentation, guys, that's what we're here for. That's our job, is to make you be superstars and build your business, and then obviously bring your business to Finance of America. So let us know what it is that you need, and we're happy to help you to develop some of that. Okay, so our next question we have is, my borrower wants to buy a single family home, convert it to a multifamily home, and use the rental income for qualifying. So a couple of different layers here in this scenario. So I'll let you answer that,
So
Lindy.
we can do multifamily. We can convert single family to multifamily. Obviously, you need to make sure it's acceptable per zoning. And as I mentioned before, sometimes we have to document that is acceptable per zoning, prior to closing if it's something different than what the house already is. Then as far as the rental income goes, we just need a 1025 appraisal, which everyone should, if you don't know what a 1025 appraisal is, it's an appraisal that gives us what the rent value is, the rental income. And it also includes comps to support that market rent. And then we follow normal FHA guidelines for calculating that income. So is it 75% vacancy factor? $1,000 a month in rent times 75% vacancy factor means they get $750 as rental income for the property. We do not need leases, and obviously we would not need tax returns because it's a new property with new rental income, so they wouldn't have a history of it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Along the lines with this, does it also work for co-ops?
It does if it's an FHA approved co-op, and I know that's probably a hard thing to find. Probably a hard thing to find an FHA approved co-op.
Gotcha. Okay, next question. Can we do a 203K for a mixed use property?
Yes, is the answer. Of course we can. So as long as the percentage or the portion of the property, the residential portion of the property is greater than 51%. Because remember, this is a residential loan. So we've got to make sure that we have more residential square footage than we do commercial square footage. And then remember too, none of the 203K funds can be used in the commercial space. So can it be used on the roof that covers the whole building? Yes. But it cannot be used to build out any of the commercial space because remember, we're getting a residential loan and we're going to just kind of pretend like the commercial space is there, but we're going to pretend like it's not there. So we can't use any renovation funds for commercial space. Like a mixed use, like the previous question, and like multi-unit and mixed use, rental income really could make your borrower qualify for much more of a house than they otherwise would. So if you're in a marketplace that has multi-unit or mixed use, and let's say you're buying a 4-unit, your borrower's got to live in one that makes the property owner occupant, he or she is going to get rental income from the other 3 units. So let's say it's, $1,000 each unit, just to make math easy on my head, times vacancy factor. That means he gets $750 times 3. So what's that? 150, 225. I mean, he gets $2,250 a month in rental income to help him qualify. Now, who wouldn't qualify for a heck more of a house with an additional $2,000 a month in income?
Yeah, no kidding.
So multi-units is a great way to get someone to qualify for more.
Perfect. I love it. Okay, and I see a couple questions. Bill, I'm going to come back to yours in a little bit because that's a little more detail. I want to get through some of these last questions that we have. Question, can a borrower delay their first payment if they aren't able to move into the property right after closing due to repairs?
So yes is the answer. Oh, this says no. The first payment cannot be delayed. I'm sorry. So let me clarify. We make a normal payment. I was reading my own answer. Good thing I was paying attention, huh? You make a normal mortgage payment on the normal mortgage schedule. So, for example, we close today. We're June. We don't make July's payment. The first payment's due August 1. So we can't delay the payment. It's due August 1, just like on any other mortgage. What we can do, though, is we can finance in up to 6 months of payments if they can't live in the house because the renovations are extensive and the house is not safe to be habitable or habitized to be habitable, right?
Yep, that's a word.
You can't live there yet because the house is unsafe because they're doing construction. We can finance in up to 6 months of mortgage payments. So if it's a really big job, maybe we finance up to 6 months. If it's a 50,000 job and it's going to be done in 3 months, we'll finance in 2 months of payments. So the number of payments we finance in might vary, but they make their payment on their normal schedule, but we can finance in payments if the house is not habitable.
And the thing to remember, guys, what Lindy's talking about is on a standard. So that's on the full 203K. If you're doing a limited, which is the smaller amount, the $30,000, then they need to move in within the first 30 days, and they need to be, they cannot be displaced, and tell me if I'm speaking out of context here, but more than 10 days. So they're going to be living there. They're going to be making that first payment. And it's just light reno things that they're going to be doing.
Yeah,
just
it's cosmetic typically.
Just as if you're remodeling a house. So Lindy's talking about, yes, we can do this. Yes, 6 months. That's only on the standard. That is not on the limited. So you want to make sure you understand the difference between the two of those. And then the other thing too is they don't get all that money at once. There's draws. And so on the limited, there's 2 draws. On the standard, there's up to 6 draws. And so they're not going to get up to 5 draws.
Up to 5 draws. 6 months and 5 draws. It is confusing. It's up to 5 draws on a standard. And the contractor goes out, he does X amount of work. He says, okay, I'm ready for my 10 grand, whatever it is. Okay. And we send the inspector out to make sure, has he done the 10 grand worth of work? The borrower has to sign off. Everyone signs off. We have it's a HUD loan. So we have paperwork and documentation, and then we cut a check. And then the check is also a 2-party check. So the borrowers are going to sign twice, one at the time of inspection saying, yes, it's okay to release the funds. And the second time when they endorse the check to give to the contractor to pay the contractor. 2-party check made payable to both contractor and homeowner.
Yeah. And so guys, when people think in their heads, oh my gosh, this is so complicated, it's no more complicated than somebody doing the renovation work themselves. It's just they get access to the money. So, it's just, and that's the way you present this as an opportunity to be able to have access to money that is wrapped up into your loan. You're forward building the equity from the improvements that you're making to the home. And so, it's like watching those shows, and I absolutely love them, where they're like, the Love It or List It is one that's a great example. It's like, okay, they fix up one home and they said, okay, this was your base cost. This is how much we spent. So this is what we estimate. This is what your home is now worth because you've done this improvements. That's exactly how it works on a rental loan, because that's what the appraiser is doing, saying based on what you're saying you're going to do, then we're anticipating that this is what the appraised value will be, and this is how much money we'll give you for a loan. So, those are things, it's just a qualification process that you need to think about. And so with that in marketing, and Bill, I'm going to ask your question next, because we're actually to the point of our Q&A. And I love the way you're thinking with this and wanting to know, and I don't know, Lindy, if you have these numbers. We obviously don't have it right now, but it's something that maybe we can get access to, because I like where you're going with it. And Bill's question is, what kind of equity gain are you seeing in your ARV values? And that's something to use loosely, obviously, because a lot of it's based on areas for realtors. And so we're going to have to work for some of that information, but let me tell you, if you're doing the 203K loans, these are the kind of numbers you want to keep. These are the kind of numbers that will help you to be able to become that expert, become that resource, and build your business around that. And I can tell you, the rental loan, I have a friend in Vegas who I helped create a renovation loan website years ago, probably about 10 years ago. He gets over 300 leads a month on this, and obviously they're nationwide, but that people are looking for these. So it's a matter of being able to position yourself with that. So I'm going to go to our next question, then we're going to get into some upcoming webinars and marketing material. So Emmett asks, how soon can you pay off a 203K completed loan after all disbursements?
So after all the repairs have been done and all the money has been used, and if there's any excess money and they used it to buy their new appliances and they still had $500 left over and we reduced what they owed on their loan, that we made a lump sum $500 payment to the principal balance, they can refinance at any time after that.
Perfect. And
Anytime.
then we have another question from Peta. Is there a cost for the inspector and administration fee, and who pays for it?
Yep. So there is a cost for what's called the 203K consultant, who is on the larger projects. We're required to have what's called a work write-up, and the 203K consultant is the person who goes and does that inspection and provides us that report on a standard only. And so he or she get paid a fee based on the size of the job, and it's a HUD set fee. That fee is also financed in their loan. So they're not coming in, they might have to come out of pocket up front to pay the consultant if the consultant wants their money up front, like an appraiser. But again, like an appraisal, we can give them credit at closing for having already paid it, and then that's less money they have to bring to closing, because again, we can finance that fee in. The inspection fees we also finance in, and there is what's called a supplemental origination fee. So remember, it is a construction loan. It's a construction loan on an existing property, but it is a construction loan. And so there's a construction fee for the draw administration. But again, all of those are financed in the loan. As far as out-of-pocket expenses, there's no additional out-of-pocket expenses or additional cost to do a renovation loan than a non-renovation loan, an FHA 203B versus an FHA 203K. Everything that is case-specific, the consultant, if you have one, the inspection fee, the supplemental origination fee, those three things are all financed in the loan using the 203K worksheet. So no additional expense out-of-pocket per se.
And I'm seeing a lot of questions relating to the worksheet. So maybe that's the next session we need to do, Lindy.
Yeah, absolutely. We could do that.
And you all let us know too. So type in, I'm going to go through some upcoming webinars. If you have any additional questions, please let us know. Type in what you want to see next. Would it be helpful to, how do you complete the maximum mortgage worksheet? Getting into, what are the repairs you can do on a limited as opposed to a standard? Let us know what it is that we can provide for you for additional resources and information as well.
The worksheet's a good one. That's a good idea. We can absolutely do that one.
Yep. Yeah, because I'm seeing this, because Beta's asking, is all the administration related fees on top of the base loan amount, which is all handled. If you know how to fill out the maximum mortgage worksheet, then you'll be able to provide that. So that might be the next one.
And just to quickly answer that question, so all the additional renovation expenses, fees, whatever you want to call it, fees, that sounds like such a negative term, but all the additional, it's all part of the loan. So remember I said we had a sales price of 200, renovations of 30, but our loan's going to be more like 234. It includes all of those items.
Perfect. And so Susan's asking, do you have marketing material for our realtors and clients for your database? And so we do. So here's the thing. So we have flyers. So, and let us know, how are you marketing? Are you using a CRM system to do your marketing? Are you just using flyers? Are you doing presentations? Because those are things that we can be able to create as well. And Emmett, thank you for your comments. He says this was great today. Thank you.
Awesome.
200 a month, email, mail, and I'm not sure. So Susan, let me know what system you're using and what we can help you with. But I'm going to let you know we have some upcoming webinars coming up. We just finished our series, Becoming Independent, continuing on with some of it for marketing ideas. And so if you go to independentoriginator.com, you can register for upcoming webinars. I just threw our next 3 in there that's coming up in June. I'm doing a webinar called 5 Steps to Building a Mortgage Sales Team. And I'm working with a friend of mine, Andrea Gaglieri from Summit Mortgage Training, who's going to share some of her tips on how to build a sales team. So if you go to Independent Originator, you can register for that. That's on June 14th. And then on June 21st, I'm doing a webinar with Finance of America Wholesale. We're doing purchase power with FHA loans. So not talking about the to a 3K specifically, but really there will be some in that. And so, Lindy, I may have you even hop on that with me. Just talking about how to use the FHA loans to be able to obviously market with your real estate agents. And then on June 26th, I am doing a webinar on busting VA home loan misconceptions. So we're going to talk about the common misconceptions about the VA home loan. And I run into this all the time where people just say, oh, realtors don't like VA home loans, or, you know, it's too tough to do. And the reality is it is one of the best programs out there for home ownership for our veterans. And so you can do energy efficient improvements on them. So anyway, I'm going to do a webinar on the 26th talking about some of those misconceptions and ways you can use that. So our goal in putting this together is to help you with the resources for you to go out and build your business. So we have created some customizable renovation flyers. There's also some commercial flyers available in there, and they all are on the Finance of America University, so on FAMU. And if you do not have access to that, you want to contact your Finance of America wholesale account executive, and they can share with you how you can get access to the Finance of America University. So contact your Finance of America account executive, find out how to get signed up, and we have flyers in there, we have training in there. If you want PowerPoint presentations, you know, let us know. And then we can go to be able to create some of those, because that's what we want to do. So contact your Finance of America account executive for more information. And you guys have been such a fabulous audience. I love getting questions. That's really why we did this on the open mic. Let us know if you like this, if you like the format, because it's something we can throw into some other programs as well for you to be able to get some of your questions answered. And Bill, thank you so much for your comments. He says, great webinar by both of you. What mics are we using? We're actually using a headset. He says, sounding webinar. I have.
What are you using?
A Seisenhower, I think it's Seisenheiser, which I got on Amazon.
Bill, I'm using my cheapy Apple earbuds that come with the phone.
They sound very good, but I'm on the computer.
So Ginger probably sounds better.
Yeah. You sound great to me. Bill, if you shoot me an email, ginger@go2training, the 2 training, I'll shoot you a link as far as what I'm using. And so anyway.
You sound very fancy, Bill.
I know. It's just fancy pantsy. So I'm going to put this back up here. I want you to register for our upcoming webinars at www.independentoriginator.com and let us know what we can do to help you to build your business. And I want to thank you. Lindy, thank you for your expertise. Great webinar.
Oh, thank you as always.
And I look forward to working with you and seeing you all on another one. So you all have a great weekend.
Thank you. Bye.